In this week's episode, who's semi-serious and whose final is a fantasy? Special guest Adrian Bradley joins me to assess the chances of the 31 nations aiming to advance from the semi-finals at Basel 2025. I'm Stephen Perkins and this is Douze.
Hello London, we are ready for your vote.
Hello again, it is Monday 4th of May, which means it is officially Eurovision month. The 2025 contest gets underway next Tuesday in Basel, and in just a moment Adrian will be joining me to chat about who we're likely to be seeing in the grand final on the 17th of May. But first, let's take a quick look at this week's breaking Eurovision news. First of all, it was the announcement heard throughout time and space on Friday as the BBC announced that this year's UK jury spokesperson is none other than the Doctor himself, Ncuti Gatwa. His appearance will be part of a pretty epic crossover event on BBC One on 17th of May, as there's an episode of Doctor Who immediately before Eurovision called The Interstellar Song Contest, centred around a version of Eurovision in space, written by the fabulous Juno Dawson and featuring a guest appearance from Eurovision's very own Rylan. Ncuti will be teleconferencing into Basel during the contest to reveal who has been awarded the maximum 12 points from the UK's panel of music industry experts. Meanwhile, following last week's news story about the changes to the flag policy for the 2025 contest, it appears that Dutch broadcaster Afrotros is appealing the new rules with the EBU. As I mentioned in the last episode, while fans are now allowed to bring a much greater range of flags into the arena, including pride flags and flags of non-competing countries, artists are restricted to only carrying the official flag of their country whenever they participate in an official Eurovision event, in a bid to crack down on political statements from the artists. However, Afrotros is objecting to the fact that this prevents artists from carrying pride flags, saying, "At this time, when the human rights of the LGBTQI+ community are under pressure, it is not a good sign to ban those flags at the Eurovision Song Contest." The broadcaster is awaiting a response from the EBU, but they are hoping that there will be a space for discussion and a potential amendment to the policy. Elsewhere, Swedish representatives Kai, who, lest we forget, are from the Voro municipality of Finland, have performed in their hometown for the Finnish president Alexander Stubb. During his visit, the president took questions from the crowd and said that he would consider a victory for Kai to be a victory for Finland. However, his remarks did cause some controversy given the fact that he did not mention Finland's actual representative for 2025, Erika Wickman. Finnish media outlet Iltalehti reached out to Erika for a comment, and she responded that she wasn't particularly surprised that the president was a fan of Kai, as she was already familiar with his taste in music, but also added, fairly diplomatically, it would be nice to see great men stand beside women like me someday. With the 2025 contest just over a week away, I thought it was high time we took a look at this year's entries for the semi-finals and made some predictions as to which ones we can expect to see again in the grand final and who's going to be watching from the sidelines come Saturday. And joining me to assess the chances of those 31 nations is Eurovision journalist and friend of the pod, Adrian Bradley. Adrian, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back on.
Great to have you here. We've got quite a lot to talk about, so I think we should just jump right in. We'll start with semi-final one, which I think is probably the slightly less fiercely fought of the two, but there's still quite a few strong ones here and some that might just miss out. So we'll go through them all in order. Opening this show on Tuesday, we have Iceland, which is Vibe with Roa. Again, apologies to everyone for my terrible pronunciation on all of these, I'm sure. This one, I'm going to start with saying I do really like this one. Looking at the running order, looking at everything that's going on here, I'm a bit sort of on the fence with this one as to whether this one's going to qualify. I don't think it's a guarantee. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I mean, normally you'd think that the semi-final opener has been kind of put there for the reason that the producers think it's a pretty safe bet. And I understand why it's the opener as well. I think it's going to be fun and I think it's going to be a good kind of warm-up for the crowd. The question is, and then having seen the Iceland final, whether they can quite deliver on that moment on stage or whether actually opening it, they might feel a bit lost. So it's one of those, it's definitely the one that I can see on the edge. Obviously, it's helped by having Swedish viewers watching it, but it's hard to. They're definitely one that I wouldn't put a definite. Oh yeah, they're safely through. Whereas normally you'd think, semi-final opener. That's because it's a banger and people are going to vote for it. I also like you. I do like it, and I think they're sweet. I've quite enjoyed their YouTube campaign, their social media campaign, and the sort of stuff that they're doing. They're quite funny. So it will be interesting to see what they can deliver on stage.
Yeah, this one I think for me it kind of feels like it's going to depend so much on how it goes for everyone else. Like if some of the other people who are slightly more kind of feel like more sure things end up having a shocker, Iceland could sneak through. But I think they are slightly dependent on maybe someone who's a front runner stumbling a little bit to get through. Moving on, the second spot, not the most promising of spots, but we've got here Poland, Justyna Sztakowska and Gaia. This one I do actually think is probably gonna get through fairly handily if the national final performance is anything to go by, because she's a very strong performer. The staging looked in good form to me, so I would be fairly confident about this one getting through.
I agree with you. I think it's interesting. There's a few in this kind of style, and I think Spain are also in this. Will also be performing in this semi-final. Obviously, not up for qualification, but and there are some similarities in the style of it. But I think it is. I think it's a banger. I think she can really sell it, and if anything, actually, it might be bad news for Iceland, because she's going to follow that, and then maybe she's the one that ends up lifting the crowd. So,
yeah,
but yeah, I agree. Safely free.
I think as well, the other thing to say is that obviously she's done Eurovision before, and she's an incredibly kind of, I hesitate to use the word because it's a slightly loaded word, but she is a veteran. You know, she's very experienced performer, so I think she's going to go out there with total confidence and no fear, and I think that's going to really, really help her as well. We'll move on to the third one, Slovenia. Clement, how much time do we have left? I remember quite liking this one when I first heard it, but also thinking it probably wasn't going to get through. Nothing has particularly changed my feelings about that since then. I just think, again, sort of given where it is in the running order, given the sort of song it is, I'm not very confident we'll be seeing this one on Saturday.
So far we're in complete agreement. I think it's fine, but is fine going to be good enough, especially when you've got some, really big numbers coming up in this semi-final? Is it going to encourage people to pick up the phone and vote for it? I'm not convinced.
Yeah, I think like I say, it's fine. Fine is unlikely to be good enough, and I think that's the problem. The only thing I can really think of working in its favour is I don't think there's necessarily much else in the semi-final that's like it. But I just don't think it, particularly again going after Poland, that being sandwiched between Poland and Estonia, I think is going to hurt it quite badly. Saying that, moving on to Estonia in the fourth position on Tuesday, Tommy Cash, Espresso Macchiato. I said when we did our roundup of various national finals, this one hasn't really worked for me as a song. I don't particularly get it, but I mean it's a televote only semi-final again, and I don't see this having any trouble qualifying whatsoever.
I kind of get it. It's very much in the school of Joust, and they collaborate and they have stuff in common from last year. It will have a big fan base. I can see why it does kind of work. I can also see why it slightly annoys the Italians. But it would be an absolute shocker if this was not on Saturday night.
Yeah, I think it might be slightly divisive, but you don't vote against songs at Eurovision; you vote for them, and I think there'll be plenty of people who will see this, they'll enjoy the performance, and this one isn't even particularly a question mark for me. I think this one's going to get through pretty comfortably. Speaking of people with getting through fairly comfortably, I would say that also I think for Ukraine, they're on next, Zifferblatt, Bird of Prey. This one possibly not one of their stronger entries by Ukrainian standards, but they've yet to fail to qualify from a semi-final, and I can't really see this being the year it doesn't happen for them. So I'm fairly confident they're going to be sailing through.
Yeah, I think I agree. We're judging Ukraine against a really high bar, and maybe this isn't at that highest of high bars, but it is a cute song. It is catchy. I mean, it's one of the ones that has stuck in my head the most, and they performed it well at their final. I think I agree. I think it is a comfortable qualifier. It would be a surprise to me if it didn't make it through.
Yeah, I think I was briefly worried about them kind of early on, but I think maybe just because it doesn't feel like it's one of their stronger efforts, but and obviously we have to bear in mind that it's probably very, very difficult to organise the selection process in Ukraine at the moment. But I do think the more I kind of hear of this one, the more I think actually I'm fairly confident about it. I think the general goodwill towards Ukraine and the fact that they are just very good at Eurovision, I think will see them through comfortably. And speaking of people who are good at Eurovision, Sweden next. Kai with Bastu. I don't really think there's much of a discussion here. This one currently favourite to win the whole thing, so not really any concerns about it getting through.
And it's going to bring the house down in the arena as well. There's going to be a huge support for it in the arena. Talk about Sweden, and that is a tiny question mark for Ukraine, is that Sweden are going to come on straight after them. We don't know if there'll be an advert break, because we don't know how complicated Sweden's set will be or anything like that. But that, especially with the reaction that Sweden are going to get, will Ukraine just get a bit forgotten in that mix? That's a question mark for me.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. With the unenviable job, shall we say, of following Sweden, we have Portugal. That is Napa and Deslocado. This one I don't really see making it through to the final Saturday. Not because I think there's anything wrong with it. It feels like it's very much Portugal at Eurovision doing what they like and not particularly worrying about what's commercial. And I don't really think this is going to kind of break through in any particularly strong way.
It's just, there's nothing special about it that stands out. It's perfectly pleasant, but it's going to be following Sweden. I don't think this is the year for little indie bands. And again, they'll have come after Ukraine doing a little bit of a little indie band. So
yeah,
they're definitely one of the ones where I'm not expecting to see them again.
Yeah, I think they're in a kind of a slight semi-final of bangers. Although to be fair, both semi-finals have got their fair share of bangers, but I think it's that some of the slightly more kind of offbeat stuff might end up getting a little bit lost. And Portugal I think always do just kind of turn up with a very kind of like they're doing what pleases them, and if it gets through, then great. If it doesn't, they'll just try again next year, and fair enough, really. Norway on next. Kyle Alessandro with Lighter. This one I think we are on fairly solid ground with. It's not one of my favourites, but I do think it's probably going to do pretty well with the voters. I don't really have many concerns about it qualifying.
No, nor do I. And it made me realise that I mentioned Sweden earlier when I was talking about Iceland and block votes. And of course, Norway are there too, which is an additional bit of help for Iceland that they might need. But for Norway itself, yeah, a comfortable televote. Will lean younger perhaps in some of the voters, but he's a very accomplished performer. He knows how to deliver it on stage. I think it will do well.
It's also interesting going back to what you were saying just now, actually, about kind of the space available for the slightly more indie things. Obviously, that's what Norway tried last year. It didn't really work out that well for them in the end. They qualified, but scraped through and then sort of finished last in the grand final. So they've kind of gone back to the more tried and tested approach this year, and I think that will serve them well. Belgium on after them. Red Sebastian with Strobe Lights. This one I think it's probably a fairly safe qualifier. I think it may be slightly on the border depending on how everything's go, but I've heard really good things about this one from the pre-parties. People seem to be responding to it really well, so I think we'll probably be seeing this one on Saturday.
So this is one that I have as on the edge, a bit of a curse of the early announcement. The benefit is not being in the same group as Austria, because I feel that kind of there are some similarities and that might make it stand out. If there was a shock non-qualifier on the night, I think it would be Belgium. I think, it's a bit of a curse of the early announcement. You get your song out a bit too early and then people have forgotten about you a bit. Let's see what they can come up with, because you can often underestimate Belgium and then they surprise you on the night with some incredible staging and some incredible performances. But yeah, if there was going to be a shock, Belgium would be it.
I don't want poor Belgium to be the shock non-qualifier 2 years in a row, because that just feels very unfortunate for them. Moving on, Azerbaijan, Mamagala with Run With You. This one again feels on the edge to me. Azerbaijan kind of not had the best of runs with televote in recent years. I think this is one of the ones that could possibly sneak through, because there's enough space in the field for this one to just edge it, I think, but I don't think it's a guaranteed qualifier by any means.
No, I agree with you as well. It's kind of a fine standard pop song that doesn't quite go somewhere special enough for me, and especially after what is going to be quite an interesting song with Belgium that it then has to follow. Is it going to encourage people to pick up the phone and go, yeah, I want it? I don't have it as a definite non-qualified, but I think this one is on the edge.
Yeah. After them, we have San Marino and Gabri Ponte with Tutta l'Italia. Now, this one, I've got this one borderline because I think it's going to be really rousing. I think people are going to respond well to it, but at the same time, it's San Marino. San Marino always kind of a question mark at Eurovision. They don't really have that much of a block behind them, and obviously the fact that this was the San Remo theme tune just kind of is such a wild card. So I think possibly a qualifier, but not staking my reputation on it.
I don't think it's qualifying. I don't think it, like, when San Marino do well at Eurovision in the semi-finals is when they do something that's just that bit extra special or that bit different, and I don't think this is enough of that. As you say, it was kind of a filler at San Remo, and that's maybe how it's going to feel in the running order.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one to see. I feel like we don't quite know what their prospects are with that one. So yeah, that'll be maybe the one that will get. It'll either be the one that they announce really early on and we'll all be very surprised, or they'll keep them right to the edge. And if maybe they'll be the 10th country announced through, perhaps. We shall wait and see. Albania after that. I'm going to attempt to pronounce this one. Shkodra Electronica with Ziam. This one, I think, is probably going to get through. Because this one's very different. And I remember this just being one of the very early ones to be announced, and just thinking this one just feels like it's going to go down really, really well at Eurovision because it's very distinctive. So I've got big hopes for this one.
So my worry about this one is, with Poland and Spain being in the same semi-final as them, and I know none of these are exactly the same, but they are of a theme, they're of a genre. But because those are better, it might make you think again about the Albania performance and what you thought about that. So it's another one of my borderline ones for me. It wouldn't be a surprise to me if it didn't make it.
Okay, moving on to Netherlands, Claude with C'est la vie. This one I have fairly high up as a fairly comfortable qualifier. I think he's a very, very confident performer. The song is very strong, and possibly also I think maybe there'll be an element of people wanting justice for Netherlands after last year. So I don't have many concerns about this one qualifying.
I agree with everything that you said. I think it's a really good song as well. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
And Croatia, riding high after last year and the very, very narrow miss. They're back. Marko Bosniak with Poison Cake. This one I do quite like. I don't really have much for hope of it qualifying, though. I just don't think it's really going to resonate with people.
I don't love it. It's not for me. And I think it's just not... It doesn't come together. So it's kind of got the weirdness. And maybe it's kind of inspired a bit by Bambi Thug from last year and things like that. But without the, Bambi Thugs, Bambi's, it came together. It had a story. It had an idea. And this just kind of feels like we're just being a bit weird. So for me, I certainly don't think it's going to have the heights of Croatia last year. And I don't think it's getting through.
And we're ending the night with Cyprus, Theo Evan and Shh. Now, this one, I think I've got this one as a kind of borderline qualifier. It's going on last, which should help it quite a lot. I wonder how people are going to respond to it. I think the live performance is going to make or break this one, because there's something quite conceited about this song, and how you interpret that on stage, I think is going to depend on how the audience receives it. So people may be turned off by it, but I think this one's probably going to get through.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not sure that it'll have an incredibly successful Saturday night, but I think it's probably safely through from the semi-final.
Yeah, I think that would make sense. On to semi-final 2 then. That is opening with Australia, Gojo and Milkshake Man. This one, it's daft. I'm not a big fan of this one, but I do think it is probably fairly likely to get through. I don't really see there being much in the way of this one.
Oh yeah, it's a nailed-on qualifier. I think it's fun, and he really sells it, and he really sells the performances. I think it's the opener of the semi-final for a very good reason, and I think the crowd are really going to. This is quite a party semi-final, and the Gojo will get the crowd going.
Yeah. I think people will be warmed up as well after Tuesday. Tuesday's always a little bit kind of trying to get everyone ready for Eurovision again, whereas Thursday everyone's fired up and ready to go. So yeah, I think that'll be getting off things to a good head of steam. Very disappointed in second place, or second in the running order, I should say, Nina Zizic for Montenegro with Dobrodošli, because I do really like this one, but I think in light of how competitive this final is and the position she's been given in the running order, I'm just not seeing her making it through to Saturday.
I agree. I agree with you, unfortunately. I think, especially as this is one that 6 don't make it through, it's just that little bit harder. And there are a few others that we'll talk about that also may struggle. So I reckon it's borderline, but it might not stand out when it comes to kind of phone vote only semi-finals.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Third in the running order is Emmy for Ireland with Like a Party. This one I've got pretty much right on the edge. Obviously, Ireland, I imagine, very keen to carry on their good run from last year with Bambi Thug. This one, I just think because it's quite a competitive semi-final and there's nothing terribly distinctive about this song, so I do think it may struggle to stand out a little bit.
I agree. Unfortunately, I don't think I don't think it's making it through. I don't think it's quite got enough, and I think it's, again, especially after last year from Ireland, like, expectations will be so high and this perhaps won't meet them, and we shouldn't pay too much attention to kind of block voting, things like that. It would have been helpful for Ireland to have been in the same semi-final as Norway in this case, to have got a little bit of Emmy's home vote as an option, which isn't going to be there. Obviously, UK voters are in this semi-final, so they can help. But again, this is one that it would not be a surprise to me if it didn't qualify.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ireland can probably kiss goodbye to hope of a 12 from the UK because they're in the same semi-final as Lithuania, which we'll get to in a minute, and Lithuania does tend to always get a 12 from the UK. Presumably there is a sizable diaspora. I've never encountered it myself, but that's the only explanation I can think of. In the fourth on the running order, Latvia, Tautumaitas with Berman Lemi. This one, again, there's so many in this one that really it just depends how it goes on the night. It could sneak through, it might just miss out. I think I'm edging on it not getting through, but I think the stars could align, it could work, because this one is quite distinctive, it's quite enjoyable. What do you think?
Oh, I think it will get through. It absolutely stands out, and I think it appeals. It has that kind of that folk music kind of cultural background that there aren't many others in that category, and certainly not in this semi-final. So I'm thinking back to similar songs from previous Eurovisions, and for me, I don't have this that borderline, I think.
Interesting. Okay, we will see how this one goes for them. But yeah, I would love to see this one go through, so I hope that you are right and I am wrong. Next up, we have Armenia, Parg, Survivor, I'm a Survivor, Stay Alive. We've all made fun of the lyrics to this one. Another one here, which I think is it's in the danger zone. It might scrape through, but it's a very competitive night, and I just don't know if this one's going to break through because it's on quite early.
Yeah, I think this may struggle. Is it going to have enough to get people to pick up the phone? I'm not convinced. It's, especially in this semi-final, especially when 6 aren't getting through, this doesn't feel like it's going to be one of the lucky ones.
It does feel a bit like, in a slightly weaker field it might be all right, but there's going to be a lot of songs here that I think people are going to have very strong feelings for, and is this going to generate that level of intensity? I'm not sure that it will. Followed up by Austria, JJ with Wasted Love. One of the favourites, again, for the whole thing. I don't have any concerns about this one getting through. I've seen a few people raising concerns about the live performance potentially, but I don't think that's going to sink it by any means.
I agree with all of what you said. I think it's really I'm really interested to see what the on-stage performance is going to be that's been so touted. Austria obviously is working with Sergio on the staging. I think the staging, by all accounts, is going to be really quite impressive. That will certainly, for me, be enough to get it through to the final, and I think that will be the moment we know whether its early favourite status had anything in it, or whether the pre-party buzz hasn't done enough for it. So really interested to see it, but not concerned about whether it will qualify.
Greece next with Claudia and Astromata. This one, I've seen quite a few people saying this one's going to be a fairly comfortable qualifier. I am less convinced. I do really like it, but I don't know. It feels that maybe it's a little bit insular and a bit too kind of sort of contained to maybe break through in what is a very, very busy semi-final. So yeah, what are your thoughts?
Similar to you, I think, and especially if you look at Latvia and Montenegro, perhaps the competition in this space, how are they going to stand up against those two earlier on in the show? That those will be the comparisons that people will have in their heads. I could see this struggling. So it's a borderline one for me.
Coming up after that, we have Lithuania, Katarsis, and Tavo Akis. This one, I think, is probably going to get through. It might be sort of slightly borderline, but I'm fairly confident. The United Kingdom is voting, so they can pretty much guarantee 12 points from us. And again, I think probably just might have the edge of being distinctive.
I'm not as confident as you are. It isn't connecting with me as much, and it isn't working. The trouble that it may have with that idea of like a good diaspora block vote is there are big phone vote crowd pleasers in this semi-final that might get a lot of people that wouldn't normally vote to vote in the UK. So we're going to talk about one of them next. We've already that coming after. That might make a difference to it. I wouldn't be surprised if it struggled. Again, like you say, it's probably one of the ones that's going to be like somewhere between 10th, 11th, 12th.
Yeah, somewhere around that sort of borderline zone. Then let's move on to the one you just hinted at, Miriana Conte for Malta with serving. I don't think we've got anything to worry about here. This one has had almost the dream pre-contest amount of publicity. She appears to be absolutely knocking it out of the park at pre-contest performances. This one is about as sure a thing as I can think of.
And it's going to be huge in the arena as well. And I think and it's going to get that sort of public support and people kind of voting for it in lots of different countries as well. And, Lithuania have to perform before it. So will you remember Lithuania after it is the question.
It's a good point. And then following it up, we have Georgia, Mariam Shingalia with Freedom. This one, I haven't responded to this one particularly. I don't really see this qualifying. I can't see who this is for other than people who are in Georgia and can't vote for it. So yeah, I'm not expecting to see this one on Saturday.
So the only reason why I think it could be borderline is that of the ballads in this semi-final, I think it's the best of a lot. And I think performance-wise, it's the best of a lot. And that might help it through. Again, you'll have, this is where I worry a little bit about Greece qualifying is kind of in the comparisons. So maybe again, it's another one of the borderline ones, but I'm not certain it's a non-qualifier.
Yeah.
But again, not helped by its running order, its running order position.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Denmark after that, Sisal with Hallucination. They're looking to kind of break. They've got the longest non-qualifying streak or current non-qualifying streak, I should say, of any country currently in the competition. This one again feels very borderline for them. I really like the song. I enjoy her as a personality and all of her TikToks and things, but I don't know if this is going to be the one that's going to do it for them, and that breaks my heart.
I think I'm in the same boat as you as well. I would like it to do well. I kind of see it in a very similar boat to Ireland and Emmy, in that it's like it's cute and it's nice, but is it enough? And that's what we're gonna have to find out. But yeah, she's really good fun on social media. She seems to be having a fun pre-party. I'd love for her to make it through to a Saturday.
Yeah, so would I. I think the biggest problem for her is as you were hinting earlier, that like Sweden and Iceland and Norway are all in the other semi-final, so she hasn't got that block vote to shore her up, which is going to be a problem, I think. Czechia after her with Adonis, Kiss Kiss Goodbye. This one I think is a fairly safe bet for qualifying. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a safe bet for qualifying. I'm still disappointed after seeing a really quite good acoustic version of it at the Malta final to the version that was then released. It will really come down to how well that sort of dance break and the choreography works in the performance. but yeah, I would. He's a very good performer. I'm pretty confident that it will get through.
Yeah. Up after that is Luxembourg, Laura Thorne with La Poupée Monte le Son. This one has been an interesting one for me because I've seen people seem fairly confident about it to begin with, but it does appear to be sort of dropping down a lot of people's rankings. I think because she's had some slightly, well, disappointing really performances on the pre-party circuit. It's been a little bit out of tune, and some concerns about whether she's going to deliver on the night. And also I think because this is so kind of tied into a song from many years ago, that people just might not even sort of make the connection. So I don't know if that nostalgia factor is going to work for it.
Yeah, I really do kind of like it, and it is cute, but she absolutely has to deliver it on the night, really, and that's what it will kind of come down to. And if she doesn't, it may struggle for a number of reasons. Again, helped, by France being in this semi-final, so a few extra kind of friendly votes, but we will see. But I would like, especially with Luxembourg so recently back, I would like them to kind of keep some momentum going as well. So it will be interesting to see.
Yeah, same here. I really like the song. It's one of the ones I've been listening to a lot in the run up to the contest. But yeah, whether it will actually break through live remains to be seen. Israel after that, Yuval Raphael, New Day Will Rise. So I said that again just before we got to clean it. Yuval Raphael, New Day Will Rise. This one, I don't think we've got anything to doubt that this is going to qualify.
I agree. It will be safely through. Again, will be interesting after last year as well to see how it goes down in the arena and that sort of reaction. But I don't quite think it will be as dramatic as last year as well. I think the distance is slightly different as well. But it would be a real surprise if it didn't get through.
Yeah. Penultimate performance is Serbia, Prince, Mila. This one, again, I have this very borderline. I think it might just scrape through because of where it is in the running order, that it's on quite late. I think if you like a ballad, this will probably, maybe scratch that sweet spot and it'd be more likely that you'll remember it at the end. But it's not a guarantee for me.
No, I'm not very confident about it at all. I don't think it's a great running order slot for it, especially kind of squeeze between Israel and the closer. It could struggle on the night. This is probably one that's helped by not being in semi-final one though, because it is a little bit on its own. It is a little bit on its own and kind of a male ballad, so maybe that will help it. But it's one of the ones that I think is lower on the borderline for me.
I think we've got a lot just fighting for that very small piece of real estate that's right on the borderline here. One of them that isn't any question for qualification though is our closing number for the night, Erika Wickman, Ich komme for Finland. If this one does not get through, then something has gone very wrong for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. It's so much fun. I think it's going to be a really fun performance as well by all accounts. It was great at the Finland qualification, so looking forward to it. And opening on Australia, closing on Finland, it's going to be quite a party.
Yeah, and I think from what I've heard as well from the sort of pre-contest circuit, she's been kind of eating and leaving no crumbs, so not concerned for Erika. I will look forward to seeing her on Saturday. So that brings us to the end. We have gone through all of them. We have made some firm decisions on some and some less firm decisions on the others. Adrian, thank you so much for joining me. I gather people can catch you on, dare I say it, some other podcasts around the time of Eurovision. So would you like to tell us where people can find you?
Well, absolutely. I'm going to be working with the Eurotrip from Eurovision, and they have a live show in Basel. So anybody that's in Basel on the Thursday, come down to the Eurovision Village to see a live show on stage on the village stage in the Eurovision Village. So that will be a lot of fun. And I am sure you will see me on other TV and radio stations during the week. Still hoping for a slightly less newsy Eurovision than last year would be nice. Let's focus on the contest and not the behind the scenes, but we'll wait and see.
Yeah, I think we would all like that. I think my nervous system couldn't take another 2024. Adrian, thank you very much for joining us.
No worries.
That's all for this week, and thanks again to Adrian for joining us and sharing his thoughts. As I mentioned earlier, we've got lots of lovely content planned for next week, including our traditional reaction episodes for the semi-finals, which will be recorded immediately after the live shows and uploaded ready for the following morning, and we're hoping to have some friends of the pod joining us for those. So do hit subscribe on your podcast platform of choice to ensure that you don't miss any of our special bonus episodes, and they'll be right there waiting for you as soon as we release them. And if you could leave us a nice review while you're there, we would love that too, as it all helps us to grow this podcast and reach even more listeners. We will see you in a week's time. Until then, good night Europe, and good morning Australia.